This week,
a senior builds a custom guitar,
choir performs its last concert of the year,
and our reporters find the best donuts in Omaha, all here on the MWHS Wildcat News.
Good morning, Wildcats. I'm Jenna Reynolds.
And I'm Edison Geiler. Mastering the guitar is not an easy task, much less building one from scratch. But senior Thomas Detlefson, who has been playing for years, decided to build himself a custom guitar in his carpentry class.
Our reporters Miguel Perez-Reyes and Tenley Wright talked with him to figure out more details about this special project.
There you go.
While most carpentry students spend their time in class making tables or small shelves, senior Thomas Detlefson took on a unique challenge this semester, building a replica of a famous Rickenbacker guitar.
I came up with the idea in September, and I wanted to build a guitar because I play, and the dream guitar that I want to own is about $3,500, so I figured in carpentry I could just build a replica of it for like a third of the price, and that'd be fine.
Since he based the design off of a real guitar, Detlefson was able to use various resources to help him complete the project.
I pulled up the model that I wanted to go after, which was one of George Harrison's guitars, and on there they have very rough dimensions listed, length, width, thickness, scale length. So I took those dimensions, and then online I bought some vinyl templates that were about the same size as well. So I used those to trace onto some parchment paper and then trace that onto my wood so I could get the proper shape for it.
The biggest challenge for him was making the guitar functional, which required some electrical work. That's where science teacher Tyler Brzezina stepped in and offered to give him a nudge in the right direction.
I think I was just there for a lot of moral support. I mean, he did it all himself. It's just kind of like, well, you might want to consider holding the soldering iron like this. And we did have a little research spot when it came to grounding his bridge. It's like you don't want to have your wires be an antenna, so we discovered that together.
Well, the actual wiring harness inside of here, when I got it, it was mostly already complete. All the actual knobs were wired together with the switch and everything. All I had to do was wire it to the pickups and then ground it to the bridge. But that's why I need the diagram, because this already, the harness that's underneath my pickguard here was already pre-assembled.
Having a student plan out and actually build a fully functional electric guitar is an exciting feat and not something that people see often.
The moment he told me he was building a guitar, I knew that he was definitely going to build a guitar that was functional. Like, I didn't doubt it. It wasn't a surprise at all. You know, the kid's a stud, and I knew that once he set his mind to it, he was going to do it. I was surprised by a 12-string guitar. I'm an English teacher. He brought a guitar into my room. I rarely get to sit there and jam out on an electric guitar in, you know, a school setting, so I took full advantage of it.
Detlefson does not plan to play the guitar in any public events anytime soon, but is open to the idea in the future. For the MWHS Wildcat News, this has been Miguel Perez-Reyes and Tenley Wright.
Yearbooks are now available for distribution. If you have not yet picked up your copy, you can visit room 312. However, they are now on a first-come, first-served basis, with a cost of $80, and you must provide a student ID while purchasing.
The final issue of the Catalyst newspaper is also hitting shelves this morning, so make sure to pick up your copies to see the yearbook and newspaper staff's hard work and to reflect on this unique school year.
Singing voices filled Wildcat 1 as all of the three choirs gathered together on May 4th for their final concert. The event marked a bittersweet end to a much-changed year, and our reporters Caden Roth and Brooke Sliva have the story.
The sounds coming from Wildcat 1 on May 4th aren't what you'd normally expect to hear from a high school gym. The Millard West Choir Department held a collective concert made up of all three choir groups. Singers Cantori and Voce showcased the songs that they had been working on throughout their final semester, though this year's final concert looked a little different than previous years.
We were in the gym for this concert so that we could have all of the choirs together. COVID required that we follow certain protocols, and one of those protocols was capacity within the auditorium. And so with the size of our program and then their parents, their guardians, and their friends, we could only do one choir per concert throughout the year. But we were able to get all three groups and all of their guests in Wildcat 1, which was really, really great.
With the effects of COVID-19 on the structure of the classes, many students found preparing for their final concert difficult.
It was really hard to stay focused because we weren't really expecting to have like an actual concert, so I think most of us just didn't really put in a lot of effort, but then once we did, it came together.
This isn't an uncommon occurrence among students this year. Struggling to find the motivation to finish classes can be seen in any classroom, in students and teachers alike. That, however, didn't deter students from persevering and putting in the work to create something special.
I think it was just mainly the fact that just mentally not being able to do it like we've always done, and not just having to overcome that hurdle like, hey, this is going to be our last concert and it's not going to be the way that we really wanted it to. But in the end, even though some of us, we had a lot of people like miss days, and getting it situated was pretty hectic, but it turned out really great.
This past school year has seen restrictions and adjustments to almost all aspects of student life. Seniors who are mostly affected by these changes have had to cope with the experiences they aren't able to participate in. Teachers have taken on the responsibility to make up for this deficit by trying to help seniors have the fullest experience possible. Many teachers have words of wisdom to share with them.
That they will be missed, that we wish that we had a full, normal year, and that it is heartbreaking and it's okay to be sad about it, but this one year, however important your senior year is, it's just one small blip on your whole journey throughout life. And things do get better in college. Even in the midst of COVID, you're going to meet bigger, better, exciting things and experiences.
With the hecticness of the last year, being able to have an in-person concert has given hope to many that next year might look a little more normal. This has been Caden Roth and Brooke Sliva reporting for the MWHS Wildcat News.
In other performing arts news, Advanced Theater and Performance and ACP classes recently wrapped up their production of Seussical the Musical. During fourth block and at 7 p.m. on Thursday, students sang, danced, and acted in this unified production.
This marks the second to last of theater activities for the year, as students will host an improv show at 7 p.m. on Monday. Make sure to catch the last event of its season in the auditorium.
They've searched for the best pizza in town, scoured for the best fries, and now our reporters Evan Vaslow and Joseph Emmeyer try to find the best donuts in Omaha. From Hertz to Lamar's, these two ventured around to see the best and worst donuts the city has to offer.
In our most extensive and controversial food review yet, Joe Edmeyer and I set out to find the best donut in Omaha. To keep things even, we just stuck to glazed donuts at each place. The first donuts we tried were from Spud Nuts, and they were very thick and doughy, but they lacked in flavor, earning them a 6 from both Joe and myself. At Olson's Bake Shop, the donuts were also very thick, but much lighter than Spud Nuts. They also had a bit of a cinnamon flavor, which we both enjoyed. Joe gave them an 8, and I gave them an 8.5. Lamar's donuts were soft and fluffy, with perfect glaze distribution. Joe gave them an 8.5, and I gave them a 7.5. The mini donuts at Dapper Donut had a very fried taste, but were still light and airy and tasted fresh. Both Joe and I gave them an 8. Despite apparently being fresh, Dunkin's donuts were cold and had an off-putting sliminess to them. Joe gave them a 5.5, while I gave them a 5. While Hertz does have some amazing specialty donuts, their glazed donuts were nothing special. Joe gave them a 7.5, and I gave them a 7. The fresh baked donuts for Sunrise were sneakily good. Joe gave them an 8.5, and I gave them an 8. At Winchell's, the donuts had a nice hint of sweetness in the dough. The glaze, however, had an unfortunate crumbly texture. Both Joe and I gave them a 7.5. Krispy Kreme's donuts had the perfect taste and texture. Our only complaint was the small size. Joe gave them a 9.5 and I gave them a 9. Overall, it was a very enjoyable search. With the exception of Dunkin', we would eat at all of these places again. Krispy Kreme, though, was the clear winner and definitely deserves the title of the best glazed donut in Omaha. This has been Joe Edmeyer and Evan Vaslow for the MWHS Wildcat News.
Before we go, we have a quick announcement for seniors. As the school year ends next week, they are expected to turn in their laptops in time for graduation.
On May 19th and 20th, seniors should have their charger, laptop, and laptop bag ready to turn in for their graduation tickets. If there are any damage concerns to your devices, stop by the tech center before those dates to get them fixed.
And that wraps up our stories for this week. For daily content, you can check out our online website and follow us on social media.
And if you enjoyed these stories and want to see more, you can watch our previous broadcasts. For the MWHS Wildcat News, this has been Jenna Reynolds.
And Edison Geiler. We'll see you next week.